of Lagos, the University of First Choice.
Yes, absolutely. A round of applause for Nila.
But I haven't pioneered in IVF in Nigeria, the first test tube baby in West Africa, sub-Saharan Black Africa. I started treating patients with infertility. And we will use the most ultimate technique to get them pregnant. And they were not getting pregnant. Out of 10, only 3 will be pregnant. So when I was in Chicago, I started doing what we call failure analysis. Why were these other 7 not getting pregnant? And it led me to pre-implantation genetic diagnosis. With that, maybe 4 or 5 will be pregnant. The remaining 5 are not getting pregnant. And by sheer accident, but I believe by divine guidance, it is that, man, we are what we eat. And we violated the law of the Almighty. The so-called apple that Eve gave to Adam is interpreted in many ways. And the simple one I can tell you is that when we were born, we took milk from our mother's breast, right? Did we gulp it or drink it or sucked it? We sucked it. How many of us drink food now and gulp it? It's deviation. That is the apple. So and by the time we gulped it, because the Almighty knows that we need to suck it, to mix it with the saliva, to break it down into pieces, and to begin the digestion in the mouth. And then we will get full nourishment. The baby goes up fresh and big and normal. But when he or she becomes a toddler, the greed, you now give ice cream. Instead of taking it by a spoon, bit by bit, what do? We start to rush it to finish it. And in Nigeria, we also, and in Africa, what we call swallow. And we swallow the food. And what do we think? That when it gets to the stomach, that the sad part is that there is no teeth in the stomach. And Dr. Mayer, who we believe was an inspired person, who finished medical school in honors, then during the First World War, was finding out why do people become ill. And to shorten this small, brief thing, which I normally give for 1 hour, he concluded that when we eat those things that like swallow, it can stay in our stomach for up to 20, 30 days in our intestine. And just imagine in the kitchen for 3 days, what happens? It decays, it ferments, it rottens, and it actually happens inside us. And that is why we may have some, the farting can be very bad, offensive smell, or bad mouth odor. And the fermentation, the toxins that are produced by that fermentation is called intestinal autointoxication. That is, by ourselves, we are poisoning ourselves. And he concluded that that is the cause of virtually all systemic illnesses. Today, we have treated people with hypertension. They don't use hypertension drugs again. People with diabetes, they don't use it again. Because so we need to give time to eat our food, to digest it so it can be nutritional. When we swallow, it is not nutritional. It is toxin, it's poison. Then let me quickly end up with two misconceptions. They say that the food of a blacksmith is poison for a fisherman. We had a judge that came to our center. This judge was rounded like this, he could hardly walk. And when we now said to him in our lecture that when you eat protein like meat or fish or snail or bokoto, all that in the plate, when it gets to the stomach, do you know what happens? The stomach will take one of them, the easiest one to process. The rest are sent as waste, as toxins to ferment. So the wife said, the man said, oh no, I didn't know that, because I thought that when my parents were giving me one meat in the rice or in the eba, I thought they were punishing me. And so when I had money, I wanted to retaliate. So I was thinking about the cause of the arthritis, the gout, those excess meat and fish. Last, you know the recommended daily allowance of meat that we can process is 250 grams. 256 grams of meat in a 250 grams of meat and fat. That is what we can process per day. And it's the equivalent of maybe 1 or 2 pieces of meat. And we take 3 times a day. Lastly, the misconception is that our food consumption process is driven by the commercial farmers, because they cannot store those products like pear, apple, and things like that, and salad and vegetables. They make us eat it in large quantities any time of the day. That is a myth. The recommended daily allowance of fruits by WHO is 200 grams per day, which is the equivalent of a quarter of an apple, or a very small one apple. So when they say an apple a day keeps you away from the doctor, and you begin to eat 4, 5, or 6 apples, it is converted into diabetes, pure and simple. So how do we inform people? That is my own sad part, which I don't understand. Because of this, I publish a magazine for free, Reproductive Health Magazine. People don't read. I publish The Punch every Wednesday on health. Nigerians don't read. They only like the gossip pictures and the gossip stories. Somebody has... And the other part is that we have the military government that came into power have removed us from our normal daily duties, and they've made us to focus on government presence at everything. We're not there. If you are put on your notice that the guest of honor here will be the governor of Lagos State or the minister of health, this place will be fuller. And that is some of the and unfortunately, these people, they do not give the education to the people we are doing.
Thank you very much, sir. What I'm going to do, I want you round of applause for Prof. I was going to ask him what MART stands for, but I think he's explained that to us. So please write your questions and pass it. I think ushers have a piece of paper, and then we will take those questions. What I want to do is to just go around each speaker now and just ask you to tell us a bit about your organization and, you know, maybe something we don't know, and some tip for us on what we need to do, just like Prof has done, to improve our healthcare. Can I start with you?
Again, my name is Uzoma Ezoke. I work with Emzo Pharmaceuticals, which is, we like the word in Nigeria, indigenous. I think I really need to research what that means. I guess that means it's owned by Nigerians. for Nigerians. Okay, I'm being educated, so I'm also on the receiving end. We've been in business for 30 odd years. I remember as a child, after school, coming to Emzo Chemist in Yaba. I did my homework in the back. And if I had a cold or anything, I was very quiet because there was a nurse there. And if you didn't look right, you would get an injection from her then and there. So Emzo began as a community pharmacy business and then moved on to do importation of finished pharmaceuticals. And so the journey began. We manufacture over probably close to 120 SKUs or product lines right here in Nigeria. So we kind of have a mandate, you know, an angry mandate almost. We must wrestle healthcare and at least the manufacturing sector back. Nigerians making products for Nigerians that address Nigerians' needs. So that in a nutshell is Emzo's history and where we're headed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Uzoma. Obinia, you want to give some last comments?
Okay, thanks. So my name is Obinia Abadre. It is not Obinna, actually. I do charge fees for the difference if you want to know why. I actually have a colleague now. His name is Obinna. So we go to meetings together deliberately. All right, so he introduces himself as Obinna. I tell him I'm Obinia, and we spend 5 minutes trying to make the difference. So I work for Hygia, HMO, and I tell people before that I spent 20 years in banking and finance and asset management and the likes. And this business is about providing care for people. It's about empowering people to look after themselves, not as individuals only, but as a community. Money is a defense. And the truth is that if you do not have the capacity to have what you want when you need to have it, then you're actually defenseless. And what Hygia seeks to do, and I've chosen to say Hygia, not health insurance as a whole, because every business must decide for themselves what they are seeking to achieve. So what Hygia is seeking to do is to enable everyone to actually have a defense. There are health plans everywhere. If you don't know how to adapt it to what you need, you will not be able to have the solution that you need.
Obinia, thank you very much. I like that. Don't dance naked. That's a good advice. Because in Nigeria, you might just end up in the Atlantic or something. Over to you, sir. Dr.
Well, I started by working with government. I was employed about 36 years ago as the national karate coach and a lecturer at the National Sports Institute, when it was an institute of cooperation between the US, Germany, and Nigeria. So I have been in fitness, I have been in physical skills for a long time. Somebody said today, very short time, 20 years. So I guess a short time. And then when I left government, my skills and my need for fitness were much more needed in the security industry. Because security agents need fitness and health. Normally, for medium-sized and large-sized security organization, you must have a fitness entry level. And you must be able to have a yearly fitness to sustain you, because you have to focus attention, energy, and body parts. So I started training the police, the armed forces, the SSS. I even designed a program for, the Brigade of Guards, who protect the president and the commander-in-chief.
Thank you very much.
I am 65 years young.
Yeah, Dr. Jack and Prof are the happiest people on this high table. I declare that. But we will get there. I'm closer to them than you guys, so you have to wait for long. Well, I'm sitting between both of you, so I'll see you both in camera. This is for you. I think, Oge, you have the final word, and then we'll take the questions.
Thank you very much. It's been wonderful, really, being with all the other members of the panel. It's been a learning experience, actually. And what do I do? Like when I was introduced, I'm a GP, general practitioner, or family physician. Depends on where you're coming from. And I'm currently involved in 2 clinics, really trying to achieve the same thing, even though the 2 clinics seem to be slightly different. So I work with the Lakeshore Cancer Clinic, which is in Victoria Island. And what we tend to do there is cancer diagnosis, cancer treatment, surgery, anything at all to do with cancer. That is what we do there. I'm not an oncologist. Where I come in is actually from the preventive arm of cancer management, which is the education and awareness. We've been talking about what can people do to try and reduce the risk, what can people do to spread the word. So that's it in a nutshell. The other clinic I'm concerned with is more along the line of what traditionally I've been trained to do, which is a typical general practice clinic. It's called Dennis Ashley Wellness Clinic, and it's also in Victoria Island. And what we tend to do is, it's a normal outpatient clinic. You come in, you see the doctor when you're unwell, but progressively, what we are trying to emphasize is, again, education and awareness, trying to get individuals to look at health from a different angle, where you don't see the doctor just when you're ill. Educate people to know that it is better to prevent than to cure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Round of applause for all the speakers. We go to the question and answer. Prof has the bulk of the questions. Not surprisingly, I suppose. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. It's been an exciting morning. The questions I have are many, so I've grouped them. One is the area concerning eating, and it is the most critical area. And the question really among from whether I'm advocating vegetarian or juicy, no way. Or whether meat should be, if you, the amount of meat you should eat. This is the story and this is the truth. You need to eat meat or chicken or fish in the right proportion with rice or eba or pounded yam or beans or whatever, and vegetables. So protein, carbohydrate, and fat. Those are our basic elements of food. The most critical part, it has to be chewed. And by the time you chew your food properly, you find out that you get full fast. I can only illustrate this by one man in America who was condemned by all insurance companies that he is not fit and is not healthy, and they all rejected him. And he then decided that he would start taking potatoes because that's what goes well with him. But he started chewing this potato 100 times before swallowing it. 5 years later, he was presented as the most healthy man in America. We don't need so much food, but we have made ourselves to feel that we do. The second point, eat the food that is in your environment. I will tell you, when I talked about my big tummy then, it has to do with only one thing. I would take my coffee or tea with 3 sugars and plenty of milk. Unknown to me, despite all my years of professorship and so on, 90% of blacks are lactose intolerant. We cannot process milk. It was sent to us by the white just to trade and take all our gold and whatever we have. We have coconut milk. We have cow's milk. All those things are there. But for me now, I go without milk and I'm okay. I get all my calcium from the chicken. So That is, as far as food is concerned, eat it in moderation. And when you eat, use your saliva as the water. If you do that, you are going to be healthy. Do we see animals drink water with food? They know better. But we drink the food and we use water to make it out.